So I want you to imagine sitting in a deposition.
Okay.
You're staring across this polished conference table at a former business partner, and you are suing them for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Wow. Yeah, that's intense.
Right. You are actively dismantling their professional standing, presenting evidence of a breach of contract, just aggressively pursuing legal accountability.
Oh, yeah, you're going after them?
Exactly. But simultaneously, sitting right there in that chair, you have completely and genuinely forgiven them.
Wait, really?
Yes. And not as some, display of moral high ground, but as a completely cutthroat, calculated business strategy.
I mean, it sounds like a total contradiction, doesn't it?
It really does.
Because most of us assume those two states, like relentless legal accountability and internal forgiveness, just cannot possibly coexist.
Right, they feel like opposites.
Yeah, we treat them as mutually exclusive. Which is honestly exactly why so many leaders are walking around completely exhausted. They're carrying all this professional baggage, just unable to process the betrayals and failures that are inevitable in business.
And if you're listening right now, you probably have some of that baggage. Maybe a terrible boss, a toxic coworker, a partnership that blew up. So today, we are doing a deep dive into a new article from the Phoenix Performance Partners.
It's a great piece.
It really is. And the mission today is to tackle a word that usually makes highly rational executives completely cringe.
Oh, absolutely cringe.
Forgiveness.
Yeah.
But we are not looking at this through some spiritual or interpersonal relationship lens today. We are stripping away all the fluff. We're examining forgiveness strictly as a tool for optimizing your own cognitive performance.
Yeah, because the word itself creates a massive barrier for people.
Oh, for sure.
The article actually points out that one CEO literally said the word gave them a guttural reaction.
A guttural reaction to forgiveness.
Yeah. They basically had to sit in a room and psychoanalyze why they hated hearing it so much in a corporate context.
That is wild.
And the root of that resistance, it almost always comes down to what the authors call religious baggage.
Right.
For many leaders, the only context they have for forgiveness is rooted in this purely relationship-saving framework. They assume that if you forgive someone at work, you're basically playing the role of a priest.
Right.
Absolving them of their guilt and just wiping the slate clean.
Yeah, one leader in the text actually said, if I forgive you, that makes me feel like I'm absolving you of your guilt and your wrongdoing.
Exactly.
And I mean, if someone just actively sabotaged your project or stole a client, the absolute last thing you want to do is wipe their slate clean.
No, you want that slate permanently marked.
Yes. So to get past that barrier, the source completely dismantles what forgiveness actually is by walking through 5 things that it is absolutely not.
Right. And the first misconception we have to drop is that forgiveness requires amnesia.
Oh, good point.
So forgiveness is not forgetting. Keeping the memory is actually vital because, well, the memory contains the data.
Right.
You need that data to navigate any future interactions with that person.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because forgiveness isn't sending a get-well-soon card to the person who wronged you. It's more like patching a security flaw in your system so the hacker can't keep getting in.
I love that analogy. Yes.
You don't delete the log of how they breached the firewall. You keep the log to build a better firewall.
Yes.
But wait, if you're holding someone legally accountable, like suing them while simultaneously forgiving them, how do those two actions actually coexist?
What's fascinating here is the why behind the resistance. We completely conflate accountability with emotional punishment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which leads to the second point from the article. Forgiveness is not friendship. You do not owe the offending party a restored relationship or access to your network.
Yeah, there's that one leader quoted who was so clear about this boundary. They just said, I'm not going to be vulnerable with him again, ever.
Yeah, exactly. And that brings up the third point. Forgiveness is not condoning the behavior.
Right. What they did was still wrong.
Objectively wrong. Acknowledging the reality of what happened doesn't mean endorsing it. It was short-sighted, it was harmful, and it stays wrong regardless of your internal state.
Which perfectly sets up the fourth point, right? The deposition scenario.
Yes. Forgiveness is not letting them off the hook.
Because you can operate the levers of justice, a lawsuit, getting them fired, whatever, without carrying the emotional heat. You don't need anger to fuel the action.
Exactly. You don't need boiling resentment to justify firing someone. The breach of contract justifies it. And the relief leaders feel when they realize they can sue someone and forgive them at the same time is profound. You sever the action from the emotion.
And it's not a one-time thing either, which is the fifth not. It is not a one-time decision.
Definitely not.
So if we've stripped away this misconception that forgiveness is a gift you give the offender, the conversation naturally has to pivot, right? Like, who actually benefits from this? What does it practically look like?
Well, it's entirely internal. The source defines forgiveness at its core as a conscious decision to release resentment.
Release resentment, okay.
Yeah, it's freeing yourself from the mental space consumed by the hurt.
Reclaiming your rent-free bandwidth.
Exactly. You are making a strategic decision to stop giving a person energy that they do not deserve to occupy in your brain.
There's this quote from a CEO in the article that I just loved. They said, "I can let go of things for me to be better, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be okay, and I sometimes hope you're not."
Yes, it's so brilliantly honest.
It is incredibly validating to hear a CEO admit they still hope the person who wronged them isn't okay. Shows forgiveness is entirely about the listener.
Right, it's a selfish act in the best way.
Yeah. But achieving that state, like we said, isn't a one-and-done event. The article introduces this concept called the permanent attitude. They bring in a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., where he says, "Forgiveness is not an occasional act. It's a permanent attitude."
It's a posture you adopt, and the internal language you use dictates whether that posture holds up. One CEO noted a conscious shift from, "I have to release this resentment," to "I get to release this."
Oh, that's a huge shift.
It's an issue of agency.
Huh?
I get to recognize when we are creating suffering, and I get to release that. It transforms it from this heavy obligation into an act of supreme agency.
Okay, but if it's a permanent attitude, what happens in that micro moment? Like, say it's 2 a.m., you're staring at the ceiling, and you catch yourself ruminating about what you should have said in that meeting 3 years ago.
Oh, we've all been there.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you actually enforce a permanent attitude in that moment?
This raises an important question. The 2 a.m. ceiling stare is the real battleground for cognitive load. If you engage with that rumination, you are burning processing power you desperately need for your 9 a.m. strategy session.
Yeah, you're just draining the battery.
Exactly. But the practice isn't about preventing the intrusive thought. That's just human neurology. You can't stop it. The practice involves acknowledging the thought without feeding it. You label it.
Like verbally.
Right.
Or just mentally.
Just mentally, you say to yourself, that is my thought. I see it, and I am actively choosing to place my attention elsewhere. It functions like a muscle.
Right.
The first time is incredibly difficult because that neural pathway of resentment is so well worn. But the 50th time, it becomes an automatic reflex.
So this daily mental practice of catching and releasing resentment, that leads directly to what they call a higher level of leadership maturity. And that requires the ability to hold conflicting ideas in your head at the exact same time.
The power of paradox.
Yes, the power of paradox. Unpack that for us.
Well, the human brain generally prefers binary narratives, right? Good and bad, victim and villain.
Okay.
But the power of paradox is the psychological ability to hold seemingly contradictory truths simultaneously without that awful cognitive dissonance.
So like two things being true at once.
Exactly. You can be genuinely hurt by someone's actions, but recognize they did their best. You can set firm boundaries, but genuinely wish them well.
There was that leader working through a messy partnership dissolution.
Oh, yeah.
They said they were really angry at the partner for how they acted, but also sad for them because they threw away a really good thing.
They recognized they were holding two opposing emotions at once.
Which brings us to the hard business case for all of this. Because resentment makes you fundamentally unavailable for work that actually matters.
Yeah.
Decisions made from hurt just lack clarity.
They absolutely do.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Think about it like tech. Resentment is like a massive background app, secretly draining your phone's battery.
Oh, I like that.
Right. Like forgiveness is just force quitting the app so you actually have the processing power to run your business.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that mechanism is exactly why forgiveness isn't weakness. It is the ultimate strategic advantage. It frees up your cognitive load.
Because when your RAM is eaten up by that background app, you start seeing threats where there are only opportunities.
You misinterpret neutral emails because you're projecting past betrayals onto your current team.
Yeah. The article shares a reflection from a CEO who felt beat up and betrayed despite trying to accommodate someone. And they noted how that feeling just takes up space meant for strategy or innovation.
Every ounce of energy spent feeling unappreciated is diverted from your best performers. You're giving your best resources to your worst problems.
Wow, yeah. But reclaiming that cognitive load, it sounds great in theory, but in practice, leaders fall into these two massive emotional traps.
They do, all the time.
The first trap is their own feelings of powerlessness, and the second is the heavy emotional burdens placed on them by others. Let's talk about the victim mentality first.
Right. So when a professional hurt occurs, it's very easy to slip into feeling completely powerless, like we're just being acted upon by external forces.
And the source acknowledges some things truly are out of your control. Policy changes, a selfish partner, a political board of directors.
You can't control the event, but the trap is letting that lack of control dictate your response. Forgiveness is how you reclaim power over how much space the situation occupies in your life. You reclaim your territory.
Okay, so you avoid the victim trap, but then you pivot to this critical boundary issue, the trap of you're the only one.
This one is so common, it's a huge red flag.
The article shares this story of a CEO whose employee was going through cancer treatment.
Such a brutal situation.
Awful. And the employee claims the CEO is the absolute only person they can blow up with and trust.
And on the surface, that sounds like a compliment, right?
Yeah, it sounds like you've built incredible psychological safety.
Yeah.
But the source says it's a trap. You cannot be someone's sole source of emotional processing, especially in a hierarchy.
No, you can't.
And they provide a script for handling it.
Right.
They say, you should tell the employee, I value our relationship, but I'm not able to be your only support, and direct them to therapy or outside friends.
Which is such a necessary boundary.
Wait, I have to push back here. If someone tells me I'm their absolute only safe harbor, especially with something like cancer, my human instinct is to be flattered and step up. How do you deliver that redirection script without sounding like a cold corporate robot?
I know, it feels so counterintuitive. But it isn't cold at all. It's profoundly caring to be honest about your limits.
Really? How so?
Think about it. Attempting to carry that burden entirely alone guarantees you will eventually hurt them because you're not a trained therapist, or you will completely burn yourself out.
I mean, that's true.
Organizations are just networks of relationships. Fractures are inevitable. The job of a leader is to process them, not prevent them. Directing someone to sustainable support protects both of you.
You're widening their safety net so it's not bouncing entirely on your shoulders.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean? If we synthesize everything from the Phoenix Performance Partners today, forgiveness is not forgetting.
It is not.
It's not absolving them, and it is certainly not weakness. It is a selfish, highly strategic tool to clear out mental junk, reclaim your agency, and protect your boundaries.
It's taking your power back.
Exactly. So I want to leave you with a specific try this today exercise straight from the text. I want you to think of a person or a situation right now where you are currently holding resentment.
We all have one.
We absolutely do. Think of that situation, and I challenge you to fill in the blanks of this sentence on your own time. If I released my resentment about blank, what might become possible is blank.
But don't force the forgiveness yet. Just look at that second blank.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because whatever is in that second blank, that is exactly what your resentment is currently costing you. And you have to decide if you want to keep paying that price.
It's a powerful question to ask yourself.
It really is. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah.
We unpack these frameworks because understanding this stuff completely changes how you operate. You don't have to carry the baggage. Until next time, keep questioning and keep looking closely at what that resentment is costing you.